Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very unique call camp. I'm usually the guy that's always involved in the call camps. Every so often they sneak one in without me. This one that's really neat is all about, it's going to be basically like real-time role-playing with real-time coaching, Michael St. Lawrence, which is awesome. I don't think anybody's ever done anything like this before in a webinar format like this. And really the spirit of call camp is all about making it be incredibly genuine, authentic, like you can't fake it, and just the reality of selling as opposed to it being sort of this fictitious, fabricated kind of thing. So with that, I'm going to hand it off to Scott, our Chief Revenue Officer, who's going to introduce Michael.
Good, thank you, Steve. And I'm excited. A couple things. First and foremost, thank you to sponsors, ZoomInfo, Outreach, ConnectSell, AirCall, Sapper, ScaleX, and SpecIt. Awesome job, you guys. Thank you again. Third thing really quickly is we want you to sit back and relax and just consume, listen, have fun, like Steve said before. The third thing is please chat. If you have a question, you want to interact, use the chat or the question bars. I will be monitoring those and helping spread the communications. And third of all, let me introduce Michael. I met Michael 30 years ago. Do you believe that, Michael? And Michael was my first sales manager. And let me just tell you something. Boy, did I learn that practice and preparation makes perfect. And I think this was even before Karate Kid, right? I think 30 years ago, before Karate Kid, something like that. Right? But let me tell you something. He also taught me that it's really, really, really hard to learn how to be an effective coach. You just can't go out there and coach if you haven't gone through the rigors and the experience. And so today's call camp is like no other. It's live. It's not orchestrated before. These are my reps that you see on the screen here. It's not staged, and they're just going to have a great time. So please welcome Michael St. Lawrence, CEO, author, mentor, and innovator.
Well, thank you, Scott and Steve. I would love to have you introduce me for every event I do, Scott, from here on. That was fabulous. If you want to flip back to the other screen, that would be great at this point. First of all, I want to thank you all for the invite to do this. And just to kind of set this up a little bit, we're going to be demonstrating a method of coaching that is quite unique. Virtually all of our clients that we've been working with over the last 5 years have told us they've never actually seen or experienced anything quite like this. So, in terms of Vivian, Alon, and Alex, they have not been exposed to the content or the idea or the selling concept we're going to be doing. They're going to see it for the very first time, and you're going to see them learn it for the first time and be coached on it for the first time. So we want to give them a lot of appreciation and thanks for being kind of our practice coaching guinea pigs. I really appreciate that. And I want to do a little bit of setup for you all where this comes from. So over the last 30 years, my company me and my founders have worked with a lot of different companies, some big ones and some small ones, and just literally thousands and thousands of salespeople that we've worked with. And we're here to demonstrate today to you a coaching methodology that's similar to the way that sports teams coach, and introduce some sales messaging ideas that salespeople use more often. But I want to kind of explain to you something. About 4 years ago, we started a research project. We interviewed 300 sales executives and tested dozens of sales teams. And one of the questions we asked the sales executives was, what is it that you find that causes salespeople to get less than optimal or less than desired results? What are the factors that do that? And we interviewed and listened to 300 sales executives, mostly from larger companies. And they tended to say that there are 4 things. This is especially when it comes to the sales interaction. There are many things that affect our results in sales, but I'm talking about when you're voice to voice or face to face with a prospect, a customer, buying influencer, a decision maker or such. What are we doing? And they said it really comes down to 4 things. 70% of all salespeople tend to make these same 4 mistakes. All right. So the first one is talking too much, just taking too long to get to the point. That is by far the #1 mistake that salespeople make. The second one is not asking the right questions at the right time in the sales interaction that generate engagement and reveal bigger opportunities that you can sell to. The third one is when that moment comes when the prospect or decision maker wants to know, what is it that makes you different? You know, how are you better or different from whom I'm already using? Some people call that the elevator pitch. I think that's kind of inaccurate. I'm not sure that we actually give elevator pitches, but it is elements of a value proposition, competitive advantages, differentiating factors, tailoring it. It's the ability to do that in a way that's nice and concise and powerful. And then the fourth element is closing. So it's those four things: talking too much, not asking the right questions, can't communicate value, and can't close. Those are the four things. Now the question is why do so many salespeople struggle with that when so many sales organizations have training, they have sales managers, they have sales enablement people, and all that kind of thing? It's not like companies are not trying to fix that problem, but there's a reason why this doesn't happen. And there are a number of different coaching styles. Some are strategic, some are, you know, team building, some are analytic, where you're going over numbers and data and all that kind of thing. But there's only one coaching style that has impact on those four mistakes in any substantial way. And that one coaching style is the way that sports teams coach, or the way that elite sports coaches their athletes. All right, when salespeople are coached in that way, which is actually quite unusual, most people don't do it, their skills start to improve and they start to break habits. Most of us get into bad habits because they're verbal patterns we've carried for years and years and years. So what we've learned is that salespeople, they need to learn to practice the way athletes practice, right? Sales managers need to learn to coach the way that sales coaches coach, and sales training should be designed to work a lot more like the way that sports teams coach together. All right, so that's what we're going to be demonstrating, is how do you translate sports-oriented coaching into a sales environment? And we're going to show you that. Now, I also want to be really clear before we go any further that sales coaching is not the only thing that impacts performance. There are 5 things that impact the performance of sales teams. It's, you know, motivation and drive is very important. How we manage our time is very important. Our interpersonal skills, our ability to make a connection and build relationships is extremely important. And then the 2 that we really focus on is what we call sales messaging and sales process. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on one of those areas in this practice session today. We're going to be focusing exclusively on sales messaging. And I want to explain to you what sales messaging really is. All right, so sales messaging is how we talk about ourselves and our company, how we explain who we are, what we do, what makes us different, what makes us better, you know, how we tie in our solution to needs and all that kind of thing. So it's answering the questions of what makes you different, what makes you better, who are you, why should I use you? It's when we're talking about ourselves and our company. All right, so that's all the setup I'm going to do. We're going to just dive right into it right now, and we're going to do a sales messaging exercise that is going to teach our fabulous participants here how to message in a more effective way. And we're going to see whether or not a new technique can impact their performance with a new coaching style in, you know, roughly 30, 40 minutes of coaching. All right. So step number 1, I'm going to ask all 3 of you real quickly here to introduce yourselves. Just want to know kind of your name, how long you've been in sales, you know, with Exec Vision. And then just succinctly, you know, one thing in 20 seconds or less that you hear from your customers that they find better or different about Exec Vision than your competitors. Vivian, you want to kick us off?
Sure. So my name is Vivian. I'm an account executive here with Exec Vision. I have been with the company for 3 years, and I've been in a full cycle role for a year, and that's my full extent of full cycle sales. I have an SDR background, so cold calling, prospecting is my specialty. And the reason that companies come to Exec Vision largely is because they see that having access to call recordings, and even with all of those insights and analytics, their reps aren't getting any better. So Exec Vision helps take you that last mile between gathering those insights and actual behavior change and performance improvement.
I love that. All right, Alon, you're on.
Hey, everybody. My name is Alon Kostetsky. I've been with the company for 18 months. And I would say that what our customers like about us is it's our ability to help them build a behavioral framework. So basically helping them understand the definition of what good looks like and align the technology to it.
Terrific. Alex?
My name is Alex Dixon. I've been with Exec Vision for approximately 2 years and in sales for well over a decade. We'll leave it at that. what differentiates ExecVision is by using ExecVision, companies and organizations are able to surface specific skill gaps and parts of their own sales process where each of their customer-facing reps may need improvement and coaching, resulting in better conversations and more effective reps.
Okay, good. Well, we have a pretty experienced group here of sales pros here. So we're gonna go through an exercise now that is designed to really impact the way that you communicate some of your basic sales messaging. I would say right off the bat that you're better than average, having done thousands of these sessions. Your clarity about what you know about your company is better than average. So you're starting off probably better than the average salesperson, just my own observation. All right, so the first part of this exercise is you need to visualize right now, or identify, even write that person's name on a piece of paper, a prospect. This would be a decision maker or a really serious decision influencer that you have met with. You know them, you know their needs, you know their sales team already, you know their problems, and you're not doing business with them. And you're a good fit for them. They should be doing business with you because you guys can help them. It's not a stretch for you to say to them that they really need your service. They need it, but they have not decided to do business with you. And this is somebody you've met with, you've asked questions of, you've taken notes, you've entered those notes into Salesforce, the whole tamale. Everybody got somebody in mind?
Yep.
Okay. This, by the way, is a really important part of sales coaching. When you're going to practice with somebody, it's always good to practice as though you're talking to an actual prospect that we know. When we make it hypothetical and we make up a sort of make-believe people, practice is much, much harder. So for the rest of the session, you're going to be talking to me as if I am that person. Does that make sense? So everything you do will be through the lens of I am talking directly to that person you write down, and all three of you have a different person. All right, so for our first exercise, I want you to imagine that for whatever reason, I'm on the phone with you and I'm that prospect. And, you know, we're on the phone, you got through to me, I took your call and I say, listen, before we go any further, we've had a couple of conversations and meetings and all that kind of thing. I ask you this question, I say, listen, help me to understand what makes your company different, your service different from your competitors. I really don't see what makes it different. All right? I want you to imagine that I'm on the call with you right now and I just asked you that question and you have to respond to me as if you're talking to me, the customer. I don't want you to paraphrase what you would say. I don't want you to say, well, if I was in this situation, here's what I would do. I just want you to talk to me exactly as if you were on the phone with me. You guys clear on that?
Yeah.
All right, Vivian, you got it started off so well last time. Let's have you kick us off again. I'm on the phone with you and I say, you know, Vivian, I'm having a hard time understanding what makes you different, what makes you better. Help me understand what makes you guys special.
Yeah. Good question. Well, a lot of what we hear from companies that have gone with competitors is that they really like the insights and the data that they're able to surface for them for those call recordings. But the question then becomes, what do you actually do with that information? So ExecVision walks you through and makes sure that you are making the most of those insights so that you are seeing performance improvement and you are seeing improvement in your conversions throughout the coaching cycle.
Okay, good. All right, Alex, you're up. What makes you guys different, better than your competitors? Exactly what you would do, how you would respond in a situation like that.
Sure. Within conversation intelligence, a lot of companies offering these types of services have information and data where they're pulling analytics and using AI to uncover the specific parts of calls that matter to you. The reason that companies that we work with like ExecVision so much is we tailor that process and uncover conversations and parts of calls and gaps in the skill process by each of your reps that are specific to your process. So everything that ExecVision does is tailored to your specific company's process.
Excellent. And Alon, why don't you finish this off here? What makes you guys different or better than your competitors?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Michael. Look, understanding your problems, and you're looking to solve your conversion rates, for example. Just dumping the technology on you, it's not really gonna do anything. So attaching the human element and really customizing the technology to your frameworks, to your sales motion, this is where we see our customers actually exceeding and achieving their business goals. And this is where we can help you and where we differentiate from our competitors.
Okay, good. Thanks, guys. I appreciate that. I'm going to break out of character for just a moment for our audience and let you know that, you know, our company does thousands of these kinds of sessions every month. And all three of you, again, I would say you're a little bit better than average of the way people respond to this. Okay, but this is very typical of working with thousands of salespeople, the way they kind of respond in the first round. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a demonstration. All right, and I'm going to ask all three of you at the end to tell me what was different about my demonstration than yours. Okay, so you're going to be listening and maybe take a note or two and say, listen, Michael did this different, or this is what I noticed, or this was helpful or useful, or this, I like this better, or whatever. I'm going to ask you after I give this demonstration. You guys clear on what you're doing right now? Observing, and then I'm going to debrief it. So Vivian, go ahead and ask me what makes you guys different or better than your competitors.
Sure. Michael, what makes you different from some of your competitors in the space?
Well, you know, first of all, I appreciate you asking that question. And I think that's probably the same question I would have if our roles were reversed. And it might be helpful if I was to share with you, Vivian, what I hear from other ExecVision customers. And, you know, I was on the phone with a company that we've been working with over the last couple of years. They've got a few hundred salespeople. And he said, you know, Mike, what it really comes down to over the last year in working with you guys, in the past, our coaches, it always seemed like they were having interactions, but they weren't having impact. They were talking to our people about metrics and about goals and such. And I've really noticed that with your guys, the intelligence and the insights you give our coaches, they are now having conversations about their selling skills, about their selling approaches, and they are impacting performance in a way that I've never seen before. We're seeing more of our low performers move into middle performers and more of our middle performers, most importantly, moving into top performers. That's what your software is doing for our company. And you know, Vivian, if you were to talk to a lot of our clients, I think that's the kind of thing you're gonna hear. It impacts in a positive way that coaching experience. So what might be helpful is tell me a little bit right now about how your coaches are interacting with your sales team. What are they doing well, and where would you like to see them improve? All right, three of you, what did I do different, better, or more helpful that you learned from? You said that would be something useful for me to try on some of my calls. What did you notice?
I love the storytelling aspect of it, that there's kind of a little bit of like a beginning, middle, and end to a story and to a specific customer that we're working with. So it's kind of this idea, I guess, that people value more what their peers are saying rather than what, you know, some salesperson at ExecVision is saying. So if you can relate it back to one of their peers, it's more relatable.
So I brought in the voice of a client or the voice of a customer, right? That I love the way you say it, peers. It's peer-to-peer language. Really important element. That can create a more engaging experience for the listener. What else did you guys notice?
You put yourself in their shoes right off the bat, and you identified with them, saying, you know, that's the same question I would be asking if I was in your shoes, and then kind of went into your pitch.
Yeah, it's always good when you get a question to kind of give it a little bit of, I don't know, just a little time before you actually answer it. Just kind of ease into a little bit. Thank them for the question. Use it and do that in a conversational way. That can be, we call that a cushion. It's typically a technique that good communicators use. They're not blunt and they're not quick in reacting. They give a little bit of transition for it. What else did you guys notice?
And I love the transition after that start, middle, and end, and then how you transition into, okay, well, tell me how your coaches are coaching now.
So at the end, I ended my messaging with a question, right?
Yep.
And what kind of a question was it?
Open-ended.
Right, it was an open-ended question. This, by the way, is one of the most important elements of selling, but and a very difficult one to break. A lot of times when a customer will ask us a question, we'll answer it, and then we'll say, does that answer your question, or is there anything else I can help you with? Those are kind of closed-ended questions, which oftentimes cause sales interactions not to go well. So whenever we talk about our sales messaging, we always want to ask a question that's open-ended that gets us control back of the sales process. You guys noticed pretty much all the things that I did was that was different. So I'm going to ask you all now in our second round to try and to kind of execute in that way, starting off with that, you know, nice little kind of transition in. Try to talk about what you've heard from your other customers and end with a question. I want to kind of present one kind of idea to you guys, is that there are three opinions that you can always speak from. There's three. that you have a choice of. There's your opinion and your company's opinion. That's what salespeople use 95% of the time. There's your customer's opinion, which you noticed, Vivian, that peer-to-peer opinion. That one has more impact. And then the third one is a testimony of a credible third party. So if you've got an article that you can quote, those are more difficult to use. We're not going to work on that today, but that is another very effective voice to use. Salespeople use their own opinion 95 to 100% of the time. It's not the most effective voice. Your customer's voice has more impact. When you're in a face-to-face meeting, or you'll notice when you start to talk about what your customers say, everybody leans in. It just gets more interesting. They want to hear what their peers have to say. All right, so here's our second round, and I'm going to ask you that very same question that I asked you before. You know, what makes your company and service different from your competitors? But you guys are going to try to plug in some of the elements that I use. You guys ready to roll?
Let's go.
Alon, since you had the benefit of hearing two people go first last time, I'm going to have you go first this time. What is it that makes you guys different or better than your competitors?
Thank you, Michael. This is a great question. And if I was in your seat, I would probably ask the same question. What we typically hear from your peers and what they liked about the onboarding process with ExecVision, it's the help that our success team, working with them hand in hand in creating the process and helping them own the project and understand how ExecVision will help and impact each one of their building stones and business challenges that they were looking to solve. So kind of like flipping the question back to you, what was your experience with onboarding X technology prior this year?
Okay, good. Now the question, we need to work on the question a little bit more, but you're going in the right direction, and your question would tie into your message, which is good, very important. Your question should really tie into your message. If you remember, when I gave the demonstration, I talked about how we impact our coaches' ability to coach. And so I asked, what do you like about the way your people coach? How would you like them to coach better? So we always want that question to be very connected to what we said. And you did a good example on that. All right, Alex, let's hear it. What makes you guys different or better?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the most common questions that we hear, and a question that I try to ask anybody that I'm hiring, even for something around my own house. The two things, and you know, when you think of call coaching, the most obvious, you know, application is for the managers and the supervisors. But one of the things that makes ExecVision different, and that we hear so often from our customers, is from the reps and from the executive leaders. From the reps, that they really get involved in their own self-development and their self-awareness of having the call recordings and being more involved in the coaching process. From the executive leadership, because now it gives them clear visibility into how those managers and supervisors are coaching, and the accountability and tracking and visibility just becomes much more clear.
Well done. All right. What do we end with?
Sorry, say it again.
What do we end with? What do we end it with?
We end it with an open-ended question.
All right.
Do your reps, are they involved in their coaching process much?
Which is closed-ended. And if you're going to do that, then say, and if so, tell me what they're doing. Tell me how you're doing it. So a closed-ended question is okay. You always want to back it up with explain to me how they're doing it kind of thing.
Sure.
Well done. Sure. Well done. Very well done. Good transition in. I like the way that you shared the story of the customer. Well done. Now, Vivian, I expect you to be pretty good at this because you actually did a little bit of this in your answer. So my guess is that this is relatively natural to you. So what makes you guys different or better than your competitors?
Well, thanks for the question, Michael. I love the way you're thinking about this. You're going about this exactly the right way. I can actually tell you, I was speaking with the head of sales ops over at Intuit the other day, and they've had call analytics in place for a decade now. They've been working on their coaching culture ever since they implemented that analytics software. But what they found was some managers were really hitting the nail on the head, but other managers weren't. And they were trying to find this missing piece. So they came to ExecVision not just to make their reps better, but to make their managers better coaches to create consistency and accountability across the board. Let's think of this in terms of your experience. I'm sure you've come across some good coaches, some bad coaches. Some of the best coaches you've come across, what were they doing differently?
Wow, that was really good. You're a natural storyteller. That was very effective. That's much better than most people typically do in the first round. So you're very, very effective. good story. You brought in the customer, you set the stage. I was on the phone with them or talking, I could feel myself right in there. Good question at the end. All right, so there's a lot of potential in what we call this peer-to-peer language. I'm going to do kind of a little exercise with you guys to really get the feeling of how deep you can go into peer-to-peer language. Okay, so we've got in our mind this prospect, right? Now I need you to get into your mind. You need to just select an individual that you consider to be a strong customer advocate, a strong executive vision advocate. They love you guys. You're doing business with them. They're not going anywhere else. They are absolutely drinking the exec vision Kool-Aid full strength. They love it. There's no way they're leaving your company. They could tell anybody what it is they like about you guys. Everybody got somebody in mind?
Yep.
Okay, let's imagine, you know, I live in Bend, Oregon, which is like craft brewery central. It's like we have all these breweries and, you know, a lot of them are barely open because of COVID. So let's imagine that we're in a post-COVID world. We're back to normal. The brewery's open and your customer advocate is sitting at the bar having a beer or two, and out of just nowhere, your prospect walks in and sits next to him or her. So the two of them are sitting next to one another. They don't know each other. Everybody got the picture? And they get into a conversation, they're relaxed, they're talking, and they find out they do roughly the same thing. You know, they both have, you know, managed sales teams and whatever. And for whatever reason, your prospect asks this person, you know, well, what do you guys use for analytics and, you know, software and all that kind of thing? And exec vision comes up. And your prospect says, well, why do you use them? What do you like about them? I've heard they're, you know, whatever, expensive or this or that and the other thing. What do you like about it? I want you to talk to me right now as if you were that person, explaining from their perspective, how would they answer the question, why they like it? And I want you to be that person. All right, Alex, you are that person. Be that person. You're a method actor right now. Give me some solid Brad Pitt level performance. Be the person that's your customer advocate. If I was your peer and I'm sitting in a beer and there's no pressure, no tension, no nothing, you're not trying to sell me. You're just telling me honestly, what is it you like about exec vision? What do you think they would say?
Sure. And I have to warn you, I did take one acting class my freshman year in college, so I might be really, really good here. Well, Michael, the reason I use exec vision and why I still use it is it makes my job much, much easier. Part of my job is to make sure that the team members that I oversee are as effective in their jobs and are as successful as possible and are the best reps they can be. And with exec vision, I'm able to auto surface and have waiting for me the specific calls where they do tremendous at talking about my company's value prop, at all the different parts of the sales process that we find so important. And I can easily, with a click of a button, share that or across the entire team so everyone can see what a great job that this one rep did, but also that we can replicate it across the team. And then the flip side of that, I can very easily find very, very pinpoint, very specific conversational behaviors or parts of the sales process where certain members of my team could use a little work to be more successful. And I can do that very easily.
All right, Alex, that was perfect. There's no way to improve that. All you need to do is start using those stories in your sales messaging. When we do this next exercise and I say, you know, what makes you different or better? And you say, hey, thanks, Mike, for that question. Maybe I should share with you what we hear from our customers. That's what you should be telling right there. That's compelling. That's powerful. That's an actual insight from a decision maker that's going to resonate a lot more. That was really well done. All right, Alon, you're up. What makes you, if we're sitting at the bar and you're going to be that customer advocate and I ask you, well, why do you guys use them? What makes them unique or special?
Yeah, so I actually enjoy their onboarding process. I enjoy the customer success engagement, the ongoing engagement from customer success. They help me for the ease of use, ease of adoption. I have subject matter experts pretty much 24/7 with Scott, Steve, and the team always available for whatever I need. We always get help when we need to realign the system as well. Obviously with COVID now, when everybody moved remote, so we always had somebody to help us with the system and make sure that everybody are keep using it, and we get the best results out of it.
Let's stay in character here, right here. I say, well, in terms of onboarding, so what can you do with their system that you couldn't do in the past? What does it allow you to do?
With the, well, like obviously now I can actually get visibility into all the calls, and now with everybody being remote, so I can actually pretty much be there and continuously coaching. Now we don't have any more those one-on-ones, right? And I can't whisper or listen into these calls. So part of the onboarding process was to actually learn how to use the system for that asynchronous coaching piece.
Okay, excellent. Good. All right, we're right there. So now we're really hitting into what makes it different. All right, Vivian, you're already really good at this. Let's hear it. What barroom conversation over a beer or a glass of wine, what makes you guys different or better?
Isn't the question, why do you like Exec Vision, or is it
Why do you? Yeah.
Okay,
sorry. Why do you like Exec Vision? What makes them different from other companies?
Okay. Well, I mean, I've been building sales teams for the last 10 years, but was tasked for the first time with building out an SDR team. And it worked pretty well when I had my first 2 to 3, even 4 reps. We were able to kind of keep it tight-knit and keep the messaging in check. But as we started expanding, I started walking around the floor and hearing people say things where I thought, I do not know where they got that from. That is not the training that we gave them. So I needed to quickly be able to identify when reps were going off of the training that I had given them, and to reinforce the training that we had given and that we had invested in order to scale that SDR team. And with Exec Vision, it was able to surface skill gaps before it became a problem. So I was able to hold my reps accountable, and then as we grow, be able to hold my managers accountable to coaching to that standard as well.
Okay, good. That was very, very good. Very effective. All right, all 3 of you guys have got really good content for this next round. So we talked a little bit about the point of sales messaging in general is usually to tee up a question. Really good sales messaging is short, it's concise, it's a minute or 2, and it leads into a really good question. So if I was going to do an example of this for my business in SalesGym, which I can, obviously do better than by sort of acting your business, I might say something like this. Let's say I was talking to a sales executive and he said, Michael, why should we use you guys for training or coaching? I might say, Bill, I appreciate you asking that. I've managed sales teams my whole life, and I think it's easy to kind of think of training and coaching as being somewhat similar, but I'll tell you a conversation I had with Connie. She manages about a 200-person sales team for Discovery Channel, a division that sells education products. I've been working with her for a couple of years. I was on the phone with her the other day, and she said something really interesting. She said, Mike, we've been with you guys now for a couple of years, and I go on a lot of calls with my people and with my managers, and I'm telling you right now that they're using the new stuff that you guys have been teaching over the last year or 2. I've been managing this team for 15 years. We've done a lot of different training. It's always frustrating. I go on calls, they never use what they learned. They go to these 2-day seminars, they don't use it. And when you guys said stop the 2-day seminars and start coaching your people, once a week for an hour over a period of 10, 15 weeks, and you started training our people that way with these really powerful 1-hour coaching sessions, I started seeing my people use it. They have better agendas to start their calls. Their sales messaging is better. They're asking better questions. Their summaries are fantastic. They're closing with open-ended kind of choices and options. We're getting more deals. And I think, Bill, if you talk to most of our customers, they'll tell you the same thing. What's very unique about us is we stretch training out over a period of 10 to 15 weeks. It's not condensed into a day or 2. It's an hour a week of really intense coaching. So I guess the question I have for you is tell me about how you're currently training and coaching your team, what you like about it, that process. But I'd like to ask you if you would share with me where you think it needs to be improved. All right, so the reason I did that example is I really wanted to illustrate a conversation that I shared. Because that barroom conversation you guys can bring into it. Now, the other thing I want to illustrate is this question. It's a very good way to ask a question is ask the good and the bad. What, like, for instance, Vivian, in terms of the way you see your coach is coaching with the data analytics you currently have, what do you like about what they're doing, but what would you like to see them doing? When you ask questions, it's always kind of effective to allow people to talk about what they're doing well and what they like to get better at. So it's these, what are you noticing that your people are doing? What would you like to see them doing more of? It's easier for people to bite into questions like that. And I want you guys to try that. All right, let's do a couple of rounds of asking these what are you doing and what could you do better questions. Who's got one?
I can go maybe with, sorry, Alex, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Alon, please.
I saw you ramping up there for a question. I would say maybe, what skill gaps do you see with your team? And the other part would be, how do you, I guess, how do you coach to it, right? Or how do you improve it?
So what skill gaps are you currently seeing, and what are the things your team is doing to change those gaps? One that I might ask is, what are some of the data analytics you're providing your coaches that is helping them to coach your team? And what are some of the data analytics you would need more of to do a better job at coaching? Alex, let's hear it.
Sure. I would ask, you know, have you been able to identify, you know, the parts of your sales process and sales motion that's preventing your reps from hitting the numbers they need to be successful?
And how did and
you know, what are some of the tools that you're using today or methods today to try to uncover that?
Very good, very good. Vivian?
Hey, what are your A players doing or saying differently on the phones, and why isn't the rest of the team doing that?
Well done, well done. Okay, we're going to put it all together now. We've done a few rounds here. This round is going to be A+ fabuloso. You guys are going to put together great peer-to-peer language. You're going to tell that customer story, and you're going to end up with such a potent question that they're going to bite in and tell you how you can help them. You guys clear on that? Exaggerate the peer-to-peer language. I really want you to tell a story. You were talking to a customer. Here's what they told us makes us unique. You know, I was on the phone with so-and-so, and I asked him, you know, how is Exec Vision changing the way you manage and coach your teams? Here's what he told me. Tell the story. Really dig in and tell us what they think is special and unique about your business that you think would resonate with me, that decision maker that is not buying yet. All right? So obviously that story should connect with something that you're hoping is going to resonate with me. All right, Alex, you seem like you are ready. You did that last exercise so well. You are ready to roll. All right, we're back in that same situation. You're on the phone with your prospect, and I say, you know, I'm having a hard time understanding what makes you different, better than your competitors. What is it?
Sure. I mean, what makes why our customers, and what I hear so often from some of our customers, that why they feel it's so effective is simply the ease in which they can make their reps better. A lot of times the lack of self-awareness on whether it be an experienced rep, or it be a new rep, and sometimes even the manager, a lack of alignment, the ease in which everyone can get on the same page on where certain skill gaps or where improvement may be required is brought right to the forefront. And so it simply makes it so much easier to effectively make each rep better at the processes and parts of your sales motion that are required for success. Have you been able to identify those specific parts in your process or in your motion that's preventing everyone from hitting their numbers?
And what do you know about them, or what have you learned about it, or where are the gaps?
And where are those gaps, right?
Good. Because you always, if you say are, I could say, yeah, I do. We figured that out. So and that would be a closed-ended answer. So you always want to say, have you figured it out? And if you could, please share with me what you've learned. That kind of thing. All right, sure. Vivian, you're up. What makes you guys different or better than your competitors?
First of all, thank you for asking that question. I think you're thinking about this in exactly the right way. I actually, just before this meeting, I got off the phone with Scott Shaw over at Intuit, and he's been leading the sales team at Intuit for 10 years. They were at the forefront when it came to adopting call recording and adopting call analytics. So he's seen many managers come through his doors. Some of them have been rock stars, and every team they've ever led has exceeded quota. Some of them were kind of in the middle, and others got pushed out pretty quickly. He's probably not the only sales leader to have gone through this, but his mission was really to create a culture around consistency and accountability. And he turned to Exec Vision to be that platform to surface coachable moments for his managers and to make sure that the coaching they were doing was making a difference. I'm sure you've come across some great coaches, some not so great coaches. I'm curious, if you think of somebody who's mentored you in the past, what did you like about them and what made them such an effective coach?
Very good, very effective. You're a natural storyteller. I mean, very natural. You have very good pacing with your voice and just nice little pauses along the way. You're you're in the upper 90 percentile in terms of storytelling ability. Alon, you're on. What makes you guys different and better than your competitors?
Thank you, Michael, for asking. If I was you, I would probably ask the same question. Actually, when we get this question, I always think about Bill at ABC Company, which actually I got off the phone with him about a week ago, and they've been a customer for about 18 months. So, moving from kind of like the normal routine and now into COVID. One of the things that he said that he really liked is part of our support, helping him constantly to align and realign exec vision to his business. So when they onboard, when they contract, when they go after new markets, when they need to make sure that the messaging that the SDRs are performing on the calls is actually driving the conversion rates that they're looking for. And he said that this is one of the things that really separated and helped him to stay with us for as long as he stayed. So in your experience, Michael, did you have any good experience with when you were onboarding other technologies, and maybe what separated them from others that actually helped you to make the decision and go with them?
Okay, good. That was very effective. You were definitely at your best in that particular one. And the more your questions can get at, tell me what you like about your kind of onboarding technology, and tell me where the gaps are. Tell me some of the capabilities you wish it had. The more you guys can get them to talk about things they aren't getting, the more opportunities are going to surface. All right, so I kind of want to break character here for a moment. So we started actually coaching after Scott and Steven introduced me. I gave a little background on our process and such. We actually started coaching about 32 minutes ago, just so we know. Okay, so we just actually did 32 minutes of coaching with 3 people. That's all it was, right? A lot of times coaches will say, oh my God, I just don't have time to coach, or I'm so busy doing everything else and such. The thing about sports-oriented coaches is it's fast-paced, it moves quickly. You can get coaching and practice in relatively quickly when you learn this methodology and you learn how to apply it to the entire sales process. But what I want to do is I want to ask the 3 of you, you experienced this for the first time. Honestly, we did not stage this. We didn't do this beforehand. This is the first time you guys experienced this, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
What is different from your experience or unique about what you just experienced as a salesperson in terms of the coaching you went through and the exercise you went through? What stands out to you?
It's the dedicated. Dixon, you want to go?
Go ahead. You had a thought there.
Vivian, then over to Alex.
I think that the dedicated focus on storytelling, it wasn't this broad topic of what are we going to go about in our next call. I like the specific of when you get asked this question, because that question is almost inevitable at every sales cycle. How are you going to answer that specific question? I thought that was helpful.
What else stood out about this coaching experience, the practice experience that's different or unique from what you've had before?
Yeah, well, this first time I've gotten coached with so many people on the line watching. But seriously, to piggyback on what Vivian said, this wasn't broad coaching. This was very specific. This was, okay, let me hear you do A, and then, okay, here's something very specifically that I'd like you to try differently. Let's hear it. So not kind of a broad trying to accomplish several things, but something very specific, so you don't get distracted or try to accomplish too many things.
Good. Alon, your
for me, I liked the structure, right? So you give like a template. Here's what you need to answer, 1, 2, 3, which really makes it easy for me to kind of like observe it and make sure that I'm hitting all the notes. And obviously within that, and this is one of the things that one of our previous coworkers, Alex Michael, was always saying it's like jazz, right? You have a structure, you have some keynotes that you have to hit, but everything else is pretty much improvisation, or kind of like our style, which obviously Vivian, Alex, and I are very different.
Correct. You guys are all different. You had your personality. Nothing was scripted, but in essence, you were following the same format, correct? What were some of the other things you noticed just about the overall experience, like how the flow of the coaching session went? Any other observations?
Very, very fast paced. Got to think on your feet.
What about the repetition factor? Anybody notice anything there?
Yeah, I mean, just that we had to do it several times to get it right.
Did you guys notice in yourself and in one another in what you did that there was any improvement in your answers from start to finish?
Definitely, across
A
the
little
three of us.
bit, a little bit of medium, or quite a bit?
Quite a bit.
What changed? What changed in the way you communicated?
To the point,
I
I
think
more precise. Sorry, Alex.
We're just making it more customer focused and trying to uncover what's really going on with the customer as opposed to talking about your own product.
Any thoughts, Vivian?
I think it became more and more conversational as we went. All of us, like the three of us each, even though we didn't prepare for this, we all know a value prop that we go back to for Exec Vision. And I think we started off with that, and it was a little bit robotic. And then that turned more into a story with highs and lows and a middle and an end.
Excellent. You guys are really fun to work with. I want to debrief a couple of things about this style of coaching, because hopefully those of you that are observing this are going to take something away from this. So what I really want to emphasize is that for the most part, and working with thousands and thousands of salespeople and sales managers over the years, and observing many different sales interactions, most sales coaching is too theoretical. It's too metrics driven. It's too conceptual. It's like, you sit down with salespeople, it's like, listen, you need to do more of this or more of that in order to hit your numbers. You know, here's your goals. Here's where you are. What are you going to do to get better? You know, I was listening to your call, and if you say a little more of this, and a little less of that, I think you're going to get better results. And that oftentimes is the way sales managers coach. That's not the way sports coaches coach. Sports coaches get on the field and start practicing. I mean, imagine, you know, a basketball player that needs help with free throws. If the coach would just say, you know, I think you need to hold your elbow a little bit more like this. I think you need to, you know, concentrate a little bit more, blank out the distractions, and, you know, just go on practice and see if you can figure it out. I mean, that's just absurd. You know, they're going to go there. They're going to stand and watch them shooting those free throws, correct them as they shoot 20, 30, 50, 100, 200, 500 free throws over a period of week until they start getting better. You know, when a quarterback is learning to throw a pattern, you know, or the wide receiver is running the pattern, and the quarterback's learning to throw the ball precisely to that right spot at that right moment, they're going to practice that play hundreds of times before they ever try it in a game. And that's what sports coaching is. It's very active. It's very demonstration oriented. You know, we practice it, we make small corrections, and we get better. That's what's missing for the most part in most sales coaching. And that's something we really advocate, that you will make significantly faster improvement with your sales team if you start getting more of your sales managers and sales leaders to have these kinds of sales experiences with your people. And the beauty is that you can have, you know, 3, 4, 5 people go through an exercise like this in an hour, you know, an hour, a half hour, 40 minutes, something like that, and they can experience it. So I wanted to turn this over to you, Scott. You've been watching. I don't know if any questions have come in, or if you have any questions that you would like me to respond with in our last few minutes here today.
Yeah, thank you. This was amazing. And again, yes, we have a couple questions. The first one is, how do we incorporate this method of practice coaching into our sales culture?
Wow, that's a big question. I will tell you, the place to start is with the humble sales meeting. The best place to start doing coaching is in your sales meetings. Most, you know, even in our work from home situation, most sales managers do have some kind of sales meeting where they get on with their people. And what's happened because of technology over the last, you know, 20 years is it's become more and more about pipeline and forecast and all that kind of thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I really believe in, you know, the technology based, you know, things that have happened with selling, and forecasting is great, CRM systems are great, and all that kind of thing. But we've got to limit the time of that. So if you've got an hour with your people in the sales meeting, there should be a 20-minute exercise like what we did here. That's the first and fastest way, because most people already have sales meetings. So start pushing coaching into your sales meetings when you can. And sometimes you just need to select 3 or 4 people in the meeting to do a coaching exercise with and such. And the second one is start plugging it into your one-on-ones. You know, almost all sales managers have one-on-one sessions with their people, and you know, structure your agenda so that, you know, we're going to go over you're going to go over your pipeline for 10 minutes. We're going to talk about your goals for 10 minutes, and we're going to do 20 minutes of back and forth practice. So start plugging it into the kinds of, you know, coaching / managing interactions you already have. That's the place to start. Obviously, if you use a company like ours, we can help you to get better at this and to, you know, learn how to plug it into more areas. But those are the 2 places that are easiest to start.
Great. Next one. Another question we have here is, how would I use my call recordings with your method?
So if you have the benefit of, you know, an inside team where you have call recordings, you know, there's no saying that in sales, which is that analyzing the past has very minimal impact. I personally think, in working with on inside sales, call center, contact center projects over the last 20 years, I personally think that the review of past calls is a little bit overrated in terms of impact on salespeople. The best call listening process, and I think you guys kind of advocate this as well, is that ideally the salesperson has a call that they listen to of their own, and they rate it with some kind of a rubric that you have. You know, did you start off with an agenda? Did you engage the prospect? Did you ask some good open-ended questions? All that kind of thing. The various areas of the sales process. So they've listened to the call, and the sales managers listen to the call, and you come together and you discuss, what do you notice you did well, and here's what I noticed you did well. And I think you try to limit the time on that and try to zero in on something. And then the next step has got to be, all right, let's work on the weakness that we saw in that call. Let's do some role play practice, the kind of thing that we demonstrated here today. Let's work on that after we've identified what's wrong, because all too often what coaches are doing is they're listening to calls and they're saying, okay, you didn't start that call with an agenda, or you did not ask for the order, or you did not summarize at the right point, or whatever. And they'll end up by saying, you need to do more of that in your next call. And the fact is that doesn't really impact performance nearly as much. So listen to the calls together, come together, compare notes, identify one area they need to get better at, and then do a kind of exercise like we did here today where we do practice. Because I think you guys are more confident now at using peer-to-peer language than you would have been if we didn't practice, correct? If I would have given you a 20-minute presentation on why peer-to-peer language is so important, so powerful, showed you 15 studies on it, research on impact, and all that stuff, you would have been nodding your head. Would you have been confident to use it?
Probably not.
No.
Not without a session like this.
That's the problem. Sales managers talk about what to do, they don't practice it. Telling people what they should be or shouldn't be doing is not enough. Sports coaches do that. They analyze it. They look at the film, they look at the tape, they identify, you're slow at this part in the game, or your route was slow, or your delivery was not as quick. Now let's go out on the field and work on that. That's what they do. They go down to the practice field and work on it. So the data gives you an indication of what you need to work on. Most sales managers don't go to the practice field. They're really good in the film room. Let's review the tape, tell you what to do, go get them, Tiger. That's not enough. You've got to go down on the field and practice with them. Any other, Scott?
Yeah, we 100% agree on that. Like, capture the data, find the one area that you need to do it, and then, practice, refine small, one at a time. Great. So yeah, I got one last question here. How would you recommend approaching an existing team that is used to doing things on their own and make it to be open to granular collaborative approach as yours?
Oh my God, that is such a great question. The truth of the matter is that practice is awkward. That's why people don't do it. It just is. It throws everybody outside their comfort zone when you start practicing. Practicing exposes weaknesses. And as a result of that, it's much easier for me to say, Vivian, I really like what you did there, but at this point in the call, I think it'd be even better if you tried this. This is something that's worked for me. Why don't you go out and try it and see what happens? That's not very invasive. When I say, here's an idea that could work, let me demonstrate it. Let's go back and forth 3 or 4 times and see if we can both get better at it. That's invasive and it's awkward. And that's something that you need to break through. You know, most of our clients tell us that it's really hard to do that on your own, which is why they typically have found bringing in a company like us to help do a few sessions, just like we did with you guys, with the sales manager on a call to kind of break that awkwardness. So that's the first thing, is you have to be committed to breaking the awkwardness. The second thing, Scott, is you need a selling system. This is a real problem. You cannot coach if you don't have a playbook. You just can't. You know, a sports team gets ready for a game because they have plays they're going to run. So they have the plays and they go in and they start practicing them. A musician can practice and rehearse for a concert because they have songs, you know, they have lyrics. They can go in and they can rehearse those songs. A lot of times sales managers don't have that. Their process is too theoretical. It's not practical enough. It's not like, what is our sales message? What is our differentiating factors? What is our competitive advantages? You got to get that stuff figured out. You know, what are our open-ended questions? What is going to be the solution, the points of our solution, so that we can teach our people how to communicate this? Now we can go practice it. So you need a playbook before you could practice.
Yeah, great answer. So any last comments, Michael, before you hand it off to me?
Scott, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to work with Alon, Alex, and Vivian. I want to thank you guys for being a really great audience. And I think you guys are right on track with having that data-oriented analytics and coaching and how to make the changes that need to be happening. I think if you combine that with practice coaching, that's the magic formula to transforming people quickly and turning, you know, you're going to do one of 3 things. You're going to move them up. You're going to make a low performer, middle performer. You're going to teach middle performers how to be top performers, and you're going to move the ones that don't want to move out. And that's what a great sales organization does. Move them out or move them up. And that's what coaching does if it's done effectively.
Great. Thank you, guys. Thank you, team. Awesome job. The highlight for me today was, you know, just get outside your comfort zone. What you just saw is really, really hard. And don't, like Michael said, even if it's hard, doesn't mean you can't take it and do it and try it. And so, but as you saw, Michael made it fun. It wasn't, you know, he didn't make it like it was rigorous or anything. It was fun. So my highlight today is go try what you just saw and make it fun. Have a great day.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.